What's happening? How are you? It's Friday. Can't wait for college football, primarily college football, plus some great NFL games. And of course, be watching the Cardinals and the Brewers. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. As you know, or maybe you don't, I'm Bernie Miklasz. I've been writing and talking, gabbing about St. Louis area sports since 1985. I do a video and a column each day. So that's 10 pieces of work from me each week here on STL Sports Central. Very much appreciate it. Speaking on behalf of the great crew that I work with, really appreciate it if whatever content you sample in terms of video, and we've got all the content you would want in terms of the teams you love. Professional sports, college sports, it doesn't matter. We cover everything in there. That includes live stream post-game videos after every game that's played. Who does that in this market? No one. So support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel and hit the like button. And by all means, leave your comments and get the word out to your fans who, for example, might be frustrated because they may go here, go there, go here. They can't find enough stuff on City SC, or they can't find enough on, Illinois or Mizzou or, whatever. St. Louis U. I mean, we have videos on everything in addition to the Cardinals and the Blues and Mizzou. All right. Pleasantries out of the way. Let's get busy. Today's topic, the Cardinals are in Milwaukee for the weekend, which gives the Brewers yet another chance to ask, as they metaphorically look across the field of the Cardinals, they can ask again, not out loud, but up here. The question is, who's your daddy? St. Louis, who's your daddy? Remember when the Cardinals used to own the Brewers? Yeah, I do too. In fact, I wasn't living in St. Louis at the time, but I was covering a minor league hockey game in Hershey, Pennsylvania, the night that the Cardinals beat the Brewers in Game 7 of the 1982 World Series. I was writing my hockey game story. I was covering a minor league team, a very popular minor league team in Baltimore, which drew 9,000-10,000 people a game. I love covering it because I love hockey, and I thought I was going to be a hockey beat writer. I got a couple job offers along the way. Could have worked in Philadelphia, could have worked in New York, but I just wanted to kind of stay the course. And eventually St. Louis was the place I wanted to be. And boy, what a life-changing experience that was. Anyway, so I'm sitting in Hershey, PA, and even though I was on deadline, I took some time to watch the Cardinals close out Game 7. So not only did the Cardinals beat the Brewers back when they were in different leagues, 1982 World Series, great stuff. The Brewers moved, just give you a brief history lesson. The Brewers moved to the National League in 1998. And from 98 through 2016, the Cardinals led the National League with a winning percentage. And they also led the National League in postseason wins and a lot of other things. The Brewers were 12th in the National League. In other words, from 98 through 2016, they were 12th in the National League. They had a humbling winning percentage of .472. From 2000 through 2015, that was the sweet spot for the Cardinals. They won 2 World Series, 4 National League pennants, competed in 12 postseasons, had only 1 losing season in 16 years. Over those same 16 years, the Brewers made the playoffs twice, and they had just 5 winning seasons. So, no question about it, the Cardinals were the boss in this rivalry. It was just a question of who rise up and challenge them. Sometimes it will, before Houston moved to the American League. Houston was a troublesome rival to the Cardinals for a while. Cincinnati under Walt Jocketty a couple times. The Cubs, of course. They made the playoffs a couple times when the Cardinals didn't, and they were a nuisance. And of course, they put that team together that won it all in 2016. But Milwaukee was largely a non-factor, except for a couple times. And so Milwaukee was never really a threat. And when the Brewers outdid the Cardinals in a season, it was usually because the Cardinals had injuries or they just didn't have enough good performances. It was just kind of like one of those years type things. It wasn't so much that the Brewers were great. And again, I'm not trying to malign the Brewers. I'm just talking about the way things were. And then now the way things are. Wow. The reason I'm talking about history is because this has changed so much. For people that perhaps don't have the memory or the sense of historical perspective that I do, which is fine because it's my job to do it. Maybe some of the younger fans who are used to Milwaukee in the playoffs all the time now, probably, I'm just thinking, maybe don't fully appreciate how this whole relationship rivalry between the Brewers and the Cardinals has been flipped upside down. I was on with Randy Carricker here today a little while ago, and he told me, and he wanted to know what I thought on the Randy Carricker show, and that's what a great show that is. And Matt Rocchio does a great job too with it. That's so much fun to watch, and you need to check that out if you don't. And it's always on our YouTube page if you don't catch it live. Okay. So Randy said, he doesn't feel like the Brewers are a rival. And he said, what do you think? And I said, well, as usual, my mind, works in mysterious ways. And I don't think they're a rival in the traditional sense, but they get me fired up because I'm so fired up by the fact that the Cardinals for years now have been getting embarrassed by the Brewers and have been trying to catch up to the Brewers and have just keep getting punked and slapped around by the Brewers. And it's been tough for me to watch this, knowing that, damn, that front office up there is so smart. This front office here has just gotten old and moldy and stale and outdated. And it's like, why are you letting this happen, Cardinals? Why are you letting this happen? So I know that's not a rivalry, but rivalries get the blood boiling. So in this particular case, St. Louis versus Milwaukee, it got my blood boiling. So I kind of think it's a rivalry, but for different reasons, if that makes any sense. But anyway, the relationship, to put it mildly, has changed. Since 2007, the Brewers have the fourth best winning percentage in baseball, despite spending relatively low sums of money on payroll. And they've had a better record than some teams that spent a fortune, right, over that time, since 2017. And when the Crew clinches a playoff spot, which could happen this weekend, I think their magic number going into the series, not for the division, but for the playoffs, is 2. So that could happen. In fact, I'd be surprised if it doesn't happen this weekend. So if so, the Cardinals have to watch them dancing around on the field and all that again. So anyway, when Milwaukee clinches a playoff spot, which is absolutely a lock, it'll be their 7th time in the postseason over the last 8 years. And when the Brewers secure first place in the Central, which they will unless they totally collapse, and I don't think that's going to happen, it will be their 5th division title since 2018. And over the same time, the Cardinals and the Cubs combined have only 3 division titles combined. Milwaukee 5, St. Louis, Chicago 3. Embarrassing. Over the last 8 seasons, including this one, the only National League team to make the postseason more times than Milwaukee are the huge market, huge payroll, huge everything LA Dodgers, who obviously are going to make the playoffs again this year. So if you look at it this way, by giving the Brewers and the Dodgers one more playoff appearance this year, the Brewers have made the playoffs only one fewer time than the mighty Dodgers since 2018, and that's preposterous considering the overwhelming disparity between those teams in market size, revenue, payroll, spending, market appeal. I mean, it should be a non-contest, but it is. And the Brewers and the Braves are the only 2 teams that are even close to the Dodgers in terms of making the playoffs since 2018. Barring some blessed baseball miracle, the Cardinals are the worst team. We have the worst offense in baseball since the All-Star break, and they're 10 games under 500 since the All-Star break, and they have some of the worst pitching since the All-Star break, talking about starting pitching. So it'd have to be not just a baseball miracle, but a blessed baseball miracle. The Cardinals are going to miss the postseason for the 3rd consecutive season, and the Redbirds are rebuilding. So their disappearance from the October stage that we got so used to, it could stretch out a while. Don't ask me to put a timetable on it, because I don't know. It all, you do things the smart way, you can close the gap maybe sooner than you think. But I'm not putting a timetable on it because that's stupid. There's no reason to. Let Chaim Bloom do what Chaim Bloom's got to do. He has spent unbelievable amount of time working on this plan that's going to take the Cardinals forward and get them back to where they should be. So anyway, but it's conceivable that their disappearance, the Cardinals from the October stage, could stretch out to 4 seasons, 5 seasons. I don't know. I hope not, but I'm just saying I'm not trying to overestimate how quick they could get back, right? I'm hunkering down for the long haul. I'm sure many of you will not be. That's your right. You make your decision. I can make up my own mind about what I like or what I think or how I set my expectations. We're all different, and that's okay. But one of the reasons why I'm so patient with this is because I've been watching, if you go back to 2017, even though the Brewers didn't make the playoffs, they were 10 games above 500. I've been watching the Brewers outmaneuver, outthink, outsmart, out everything the Cardinals for this will be 9 years now. And so if it's going to take a few years to get this thing fixed, I'm good with that. Because when you have watched this team just come up short repeatedly, in some years really mediocre since 2017, no, need someone who can break this thing down, who knows what they're doing, who knows how to modernize everything to do with the Cardinals and get this team back on higher ground. And if that takes a little longer than I would like, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because I know one thing for sure that ain't going to work is spending like an idiot. Oh, that'll do. We'll just go buy players. Yeah. Well, how, compared to the Brewers, how's that worked out for the Mets, for example? Or how's that worked out? I know the Phillies have been good the last 3 years, but since 2017, they haven't won as many games as the Brewers, right? They haven't won as many division titles as the Brewers. You can spend, but if you're stupid in how you spend, what you're taking the money and you're setting it ablaze. Some of you I know, and I apologize because I say this all the time because I am absolutely obsessed with it. I want a smart baseball operation. That's the number one priority. The payroll stuff can come later after they get this thing set on solid ground again with homegrown starting pitchers, position players, smart draft picks, tapping the international market, so on and so forth. Then you can worry about spending money to get that one bat you need or that one pitcher you need. They're not in that position right now, and it would be stupid to complicate a complicated roster even more than it is. That's the first thing he's got to do, Chaim Bloom, is to just thin it out because you have too many damn left-handed hitters and you have too many outfielders who bat left-handed. You don't have a right-handed bat for the outfield. So you get crushed with, like, when the other team has left-handed pitching, you can't counter it because your right-handed hitting's not good, and you don't have right-handed hitting in the outfield. So, everybody's talking about adding this, sign that, sign him. So go get this. No. First thing you do is get rid of players. And then when the dust settles, then we'll look at it. Anyway, there is hope for the Cardinals, who continue to get bullied around, slapped around by the Brewers, despite the Cardinals having a massive advantage in revenue and payroll investments and market size and everything else. Yes, there it is. There it is. That's how the Cardinals will eventually get back to being even with the Brewers, and then will overtake the Brewers at some point, because the Brewers haven't owned the Cardinals because of payroll size, okay, or attendance. And it's a reality that so many people still fail to understand. I do Gas House Gang and Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX a few times a week. And in the comment section, it's always about, I think the Cardinals should go sign this guy. Do you think they'll go sign Pete Alonso? Do you think? And it's just like, gosh, I love everybody. I do. I get salty, but I really do love people who are passionate, and who love their team, even if we disagree on some things. That's okay. But I still think there's at least a percentage of the fan base that really doesn't understand what's about to happen, and their time of going out and bidding on upper middle free agents or big free agents. That's something that's going to come later. And Bill DeWitt told me that he loves the Tampa Bay model and the Cleveland model, but he said the Cardinals need to have stars. I want stars. So he was pointing out to me, he said, like, unlike Cleveland and Tampa Bay, and I have great respect for them, and so I'm not taking a shot at them, but if we develop players like they develop, we're going to want to keep some of the players instead of saying, well, we can't afford to keep them. He said, because the Cardinals are a team that has always had stars. So we'll see, I totally believe Bill DeWitt will stick to that. But it's one of those things that the time is not here now. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's get into this some more because I've been taking some side trips here. The Brewers own the Cardinals because of their excellent baseball operation that is smarter and more in tune with modern baseball, putting a big emphasis on player development technology, sharp-minded analytics department, maybe the best analytics department in the majors, and all the things that the Brewers do. They also tap into the international market, the prospects, the international prospects, Jackson Chourio being an example of many. So all the things that the Brewers do well to win in the modern form of baseball, where it really is more of a mental game than anything, because the mental game, the IQ game, is why you get so many good players, even if you don't have a great deal of money to spend compared to the big boys. So anyway, what the Brewers have been doing up there with David Stearns and now Matt Arnold, pardon the analogy, but it makes the St. Louis operation look like the equivalent of trying to win the Indy 500 with a stagecoach or like maybe a horse and buggy. It's just ridiculous. There is hope, and hope is named Chaim. Speaking of that, I looked it up. I was curious. Chaim is the Hebrew word meaning life. Okay, I'll be hokey and have some fun with that. If Chaim means life, then, well, that's an appropriate name, given the assignment that Chaim Bloom has. He's got to revive the Cardinals. They're broken. They're broken down. They're old. They're moldy. They've got rust all over them. They've fallen way behind in the stuff that they used to be great at. So it's Chaim's responsibility, and he's raring to go to make the Cardinals modern, and they make them come alive and make them escape this mediocrity they've been buried under. I'll explain when I return for my second segment of the Bernie Show. I'll explain some more things about this, and I hope you stay with me. But first, some exciting news from DraftKings Sportsbook. Missouri, get ready. The wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming very, very soon to the Show Me State, and you can sign up today. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when DraftKings Sportsbook launches on December the 1st. But if you download now and you place a $5 bet, you can place a $5 bet when DraftKings Sportsbook goes live on December 1st. So you can make your preparations now in advance. Sign up. Get ready to jump into the game. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day, whatever sport, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. So easy. And that Sportsbook app is great, too. You'll find so much information there to try to make up your mind about which way to go on a particular game. They really do provide that service, and it's well done. When DraftKings officially goes live in Missouri, you're going to be betting with the Sportsbook app, trusted by millions, safe and secure, and you also get fast money withdrawals, and you get some other things you'll really like as well. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets, which is a $5 bet when we go live on December the 1st. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21, must be physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. All right. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Welcome back to segment number 2 of the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you can do with one click. And please hit the like button and leave your comments. You can give me hell. It's all good. Listen, the saddest and most frustrating thing about the Cardinals falling behind the Brewers, and they've been behind the Brewers, and there is no doubt about that. Don't even try to say the Cardinals haven't fallen way behind the Brewers, because they have. Put it this way, the Brewers ain't the ones rebuilding. Anyway, the thing that makes me sad and frustrated is that the Cardinals fell behind the Brewers despite having some real sizable advantage. And it's because of all the money that's been wasted here, a failure that wiped out what should have been a major advantage for St. Louis. Since the Brewers have been in control of this division since 2018, they have taken over the top spot, despite being outspent on payroll by more than $300 million by the Cardinals over that time. Now, listen, I've even confused myself on this, and I may have confused a few of you when I talk about how much the Cardinals have outspent the Brewers. A lot of it, payroll can be calculated in any number of ways, and I decided I got to pick one way and stick with it. So I went to Spot Rack, and they sort of simplify it in a way where there's not all this haze about, well, which one is the right payroll figure? So based on me sitting down and looking at Spot Rack today and coming up with the figure that I think makes it easier to understand and there's less confusion. And what I came up with was there's been a $300 million gap in payroll between the Cardinals up here and the Brewers down there. $300 million less the Brewers have spent for the privilege of kicking the Cardinals' rear ends. So I use Spot Rack, and from now on, that's a contract tracking site. You can go check that out. It's really great. I'll be using the $300 million disparity between the payrolls for these two teams since 2018. Another way for me to tabulate this is just to look at the last 3 seasons, right? We can go into the more recent times. The Brewers will be winning their 3rd straight National League Central title. The Cardinals will likely, almost certainly, miss the playoffs for the 3rd consecutive year. So we've got a three-year stretch to look at, the last 3 years. And what I found by looking at Spot Rack, the Cardinals over the last 3 years have outspent the Brewers, and that's even after the Cardinals cut their payroll by $40 million this year. But over the last 3 seasons, the Cardinals have outspent the Brewers by close to $100 million on payroll. It's about $97 million since the start of the 23 season. What type of payroll advantage, over Milwaukee, with that type of payroll advantage over Milwaukee, it's sizable. Imagine what the Cardinals would have done or could have done or should have done had they just been better at payroll efficiency, less wasted money, much stronger player development system, understanding they were no longer developing good starting pitchers, homegrown, getting back to doing that sooner than they have, tapping into that international prospect market, taking advantage of that, adapting to have a more modernized, smarter approach to technology and analytics. And for those of you who might say that's not all that important or it's overrated, I don't know what to tell you. You see the Brewers winning a hell of a lot more than teams that are spending massively more than the Brewers are. So how do you think the Brewers are doing this? How do you think they've erased their financial and their revenue disadvantage? Because of all the things that I mentioned. If you can't outspend teams, you have to outthink teams, outmaneuver teams, and make sure you're on the cutting edge of some of the stuff that's more prominent in the modern game. The Brewers have done it. The Cardinals did not do it, which is why, thankfully, Bill DeWitt has hired Chaim Bloom to modernize the Cardinals' minor league and player development systems and everything else he's going to do, because it's long overdue. That was Bloom's first assignment, just a total refurbishing, and that's even a light word, of the minor league operation, which entails, facilities, the number of instructors and coaches and all of that, equipment. So he's got him up to speed there with the help of Rob Cerfolio and Larry Day and the pitching coordinator, Matt Pierpont, and there are others. So they've got that project underway, and it's going really, really well. I'll give you a little more on that later. And in a matter of weeks, Chaim Bloom goes to the next thing, the next step, the big step. He'll move up into the role of president of baseball operations as John Mozeliak steps down as planned. This is a fresh start for the Cardinals, a new beginning. That's why I'm excited, because they needed a new beginning. It's overdue, and in that context, I'm excited that Bill DeWitt has made these moves, because this is the only way the Cardinals are going to catch up to Milwaukee and overtake Milwaukee, and also not worry about being overtaken by the Reds or the Pirates. The Brewers have what the Cardinals lost when Jeff Luhnow left the Cardinals front office to go to Houston. The modern, forward-thinking approach to all things baseball, that left when Luhnow left. The Cardinals were so heralded in this area. Bill DeWitt was praised by his fellow owners for having the foresight to hire a guy like Luhnow out of the business world, so he could give them a more efficient and smarter operation that could also have different ways of identifying draftable talent. The Cardinals were recognized for establishing the industry standard, for coming up with a player development model that was going to provide an affordable talent base for the major league payroll, which in turn would allow the Cardinals to have more payroll space to go outside in trades and free agency to get what they needed to make themselves stronger. It worked beautifully. It really did. All of that has been lost, and Chaim Bloom was brought in to turn back the clock. And he said, well, wait a minute. What do you mean turn back the clock? You're talking about him got to move this tank forward. Yeah, I know it sounds contradictory, but the only way for the Cardinals to move forward and rise up again is to turn back the clock to a time when they had one of the 2 or 3 or top 4 smartest, most intelligent, savvy baseball groups in the majors. And when I return for my third and final segment on the Bernie Show, I'll take a closer look at the Milwaukee-St. Louis situation and just revisit the idea, or just the details of why the Brewers play better baseball, even though this year the Brewers have, depending on Spot Rack or COTS contracts, the Brewers have the 24th payroll, and the Cardinals are 19th. Still outspending the Brewers, still getting slapped around by the Brewers. Anyway, but first, it's time for me to give my fellow man a little pep talk about Blue Chew. What Blue Chew is out there waiting for you. It can help raise your game for those intimate, pleasurable times with your partner that you should be enjoying. And if you're not, Big Blue can power you up. You should not hesitate. Help is there, so just chew it and do it. I know what Blue Chew has done for me, and I am of Medicare age and Social Security age. So I know what it has done to help me, so I know what it can do for you, because I've lived through that. So if you need a stronger bat, don't be shy. Blue Chew is in the equipment room. Just walk in there and get it. Except you don't have to walk in there. You can order it online. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for enhanced performance. You will get your first month of Blue Chew free. You're just a few clicks away. You sign up at bluechew.com. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And once you are approved, you will receive a prescription at your doorstep in a few days. It is all done online, simple and private. You don't have to wait at the pharmacy to pick up something, all that stuff. Forget about it. All done online, simple, private, quick, easy. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code Bernie. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code Bernie to get your first month free. Only cost to you is the $5 shipping fee. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central. All right. Let me take a sip of coffee here and reload. Good. Let's start our third segment in my comparison of the Cardinals and the Brewers. Chaim Bloom and the associates he's brought in are already changing the Cardinals' drafting philosophy in terms of scouting pitchers, and I'm sure in other ways as well. The Cardinals have finally shifted their priority to finding more pitchers who can get much higher percentage of swings and misses and strikeouts. They're so far behind in that area. But Chaim Bloom and his people are already in the process of changing that. And that adjustment will become even more prevalent once Chaim Bloom sets up his entire baseball operation. Fangraphs recently put the Cardinals at number 6 in the majors in the farm system rankings. That's a huge, huge move forward from where they were pretty recently. Milwaukee is still ahead of St. Louis in the Fangraphs farm system rankings because drafting and developing players is something the Brewers do extraordinarily well. But the point is the Cardinals are already starting to narrow that gap. And Bloom and all his smart hires, led by Rob Cerfolio, Larry Day, Matt Pierpont, and there are others, and there's more on the way. They're going to continue to make improvements rather than the Cardinals backsliding in terms of player development, especially with the pitching. The Brewers are tied with the Dodgers. Let's talk about style of baseball. You know what I like about the Brewers? Their style of offense. It's like, yes, all of that. That's fine. What do you mean? Are you a power hitting team? No. Are you is it all based on batting average and running? No. Although we do that. Yeah. And we like to hit for power. So what do you do? Their answer would be everything. In other words, we, the Brewers, I'm speaking on their behalf, or as if I'm a Brewers guy, like one of their front office people. We don't obsess over one thing. We want to be strong in every way there is to play the game. And to do that, you really need a lot of athleticism. You need some speed. Guys that can drop down bunts, run the bases very, very well, play small ball, be very good at situational hitting, understanding those situations, and maybe changing their at bat or the approach to their at bat accordingly. We want a smart team that can run well and can hit for some power and fundamentally outstanding, really good defense, really good pitching, starting pitching, relief pitching, pitching depth. I don't know how the Brewers do it with the money that they've spent, but they have managed to do this. And so when we ask, well, what should the Cardinals do? And I always say this, and people think maybe I'm being lazy or flippant or something. It's like, what should the Cardinals do? That city up north, further up north than Chicago. That team, follow what they do, because that's how it should be done. The Brewers, let's talk about the offense first. The Brewers are tied with the Dodgers in the National League by scoring an average of 5.05 runs per game. The Cardinals are 12th in the National League among the 15 teams in runs per game, about 4.28. The Brewers do this despite being ranked 8th in the National League in homers, so they're in the lower half of the National League in homers. They're 6th in slugging, which is fine, but it's not like, wow, look at that slugging percentage. They don't win by blasting away with power, even though they have power, but they're not overly dependent on it. That's the point. If they don't hit for power, they're not hitting home runs. The offense does not shut down. They have other ways to get you. The Brewers win. Let's go over it. The offense. They win because they have the best on-base percentage in the league, something that has been dropping for the Cardinals this season as we've gone along. The Brewers take great at-bats. They're very selective about choosing pitches to swing at. In fact, the Brewers, on a percentage basis, have swung at fewer pitches than any team in the majors. Selective. They're not going up there hacking. They're going up there with a plan. And when the Brewers do swing, here's the beautiful thing about that. They have the National League's best contact rate. And in terms of chasing pitches out of the strike zone, in other words, getting themselves out, and the pitchers tip their cap and say, well, thank you for chasing that pitch that's a foot off the plate. So not only do the Brewers swing fewer times than anybody, not only do they have the best contact rate than everybody, they also have the lowest chase rate of pitches in the strike outside of the strike zone than any team in the league. Now, think about that for a minute. Think about how impactful that is. The Brewers, they inflate their National League leading 333 on base percentage. That's 20 points higher than the Cardinals, who no longer take walks, by the way, not many. Brewers, they inflate their league best on base percentage by ranking 6th among the 15 teams in walks. They're second in hit by pitches. and they are second in batting average. There's some other things there too that inflate. Like they beat out, because they're fast, they beat out a lot of infield hits, or they keep innings going by beating out double play ground balls like the relay throw. And once the Brewers get all these runners on base, and the key to baseball has always been getting runners on base, because that gives you more opportunities. And it's not just batting average, it's walks. Well, the Brewers will give you both, and they'll get hit by pitches because they're not swinging at stuff. If a ball's coming in on them, okay, hit me. That's good. I'll get on base and we can get something rolling. Contrary to St. Louis, Milwaukee's team's got exceptional speed and athleticism. I talked about that in a video a couple months ago. I think it's worth talking about again because I think the point's got to be reemphasized. According about what it takes to beat the Brewers, what's it going to take to beat them at their own game, based on a philosophy that they have set and followed up there for a long time. According to Fangraphs, the Brewers have the third best speed score rating in the National League. The Cardinals in the speed score metric, dead last in the National League. The Brewers lead the National League with 153 stolen bases going into Friday's series opener against the Cardinals. They lead the National League in steals. They are third in their percentage of extra bases taken as runners that do not involve stolen bases. Fangraphs and StatCast both grade Milwaukee as the National League's #1 base running team. I think, as I mentioned this, they have the most infield hits in the National League. They have a low rate of hitting in a double place because they can outrun relay throws to first base. Only two national, and they're smart, only two National League teams on when guys are running, not trying to steal a base, but try to get an extra base through their running, advancing to third from first to third on a single, stuff like that. Only two National League teams this year have had fewer runners thrown out on the base paths than the Brewers on non-steal attempts. So they do everything well. They're not a prisoner to any one style. They have a number of ways to beat you, to score runs. If you're not hitting the home runs, well, there's a way to compensate for that because we have an all-around game. And see, this should excite Cardinals fans because I've been covering ball in St. Louis since 1989, even before that, because I helped out Rick Hummel in 1985 for a while when I first got here. Cardinals fans love that style of baseball, the all-around baseball, not baseball that's overly dependent on hitting home runs. The Brewers play the style of baseball that the Cardinals fans really love. Except, let me speak for Cardinals fans and say, Cardinals fans love it when the Cardinals do it. They don't love it with the Brewers doing it. They want the Cardinals to do it. And that's why, in my opinion, you ought to be, no, I'm not going to tell anybody else how to think. I'm just saying, I like the idea of having a team that can do everything well and not be overly dependent on any one thing. I think you would want that too. But this is why we got to give Chaim Bloom time to get his work done. That transformation ain't going to happen in 1 or 2 years. But anyway, with all these skill sets and factors, the Brewers have the ability to win games in a large variety of ways. And I think that's the best kind of baseball myself. Matt Arnold's front office does an exceptional job of finding pitchers that other teams overlook. They have an abundant supply of pitching. It's unreal how much pitching they have. And that has helped them to survive the turmoil. And I forgot to check this morning, but I knew at one point this year, they had 10 pitchers on the IL or who had gone on the IL. And if you look at the National League rankings, despite all of that carnage, they got a guy in the minor leagues, Chad Patrick, who actually pitched well in Milwaukee, really well when he was up here because of an injury. He might be, like right now, this guy that the Brewers have at AAA, he might be better than any starting pitcher the Cardinals have at this moment. And so I talked about their supply of abundant pitching. Okay, if you look at the National League rankings, the Brewers have the second best starting pitching ERA, the fourth best bullpen ERA, and the #1 overall ERA. And among other things, that's without Brandon Woodruff not pitching until late July or whenever it was, and all kinds of other injuries. And the fact that, they traded Corbin Burns away, a Cy Young Award winner, before the 24 season. You say, well, what about the defense? You haven't mentioned the defense. Okay, the Cardinals have a better defense than Milwaukee, but not by much, because the Brewers, according to Fangraphs, have the National League's third-rated defense. The Cardinals are, I believe, number 2. But I'll even say, let's say the Cardinals are number 1, right, in terms of like defensive run save. But I'm actually talking about the overall Fangraphs rating, the way they rate defense, and they have a lot of metrics available. So if the Cardinals are, even if they're number 1, the Brewers are right there at number 3. They can do that too. The Brewers have outflanked the Cardinals in every area, despite being ranked 23rd or 24th in payroll this season. And since 2018, the Brewers have an average payroll ranking of 21st. The Cardinals' average payroll ranking over that time is 12th. Big advantage to St. Louis, and a big advantage wasted. So before the Cardinals can eliminate the standings gap, they have to match Milwaukee's brain power, and they have to reduce. They got to reduce the space in the IQ score. Chaim Bloom and his front office recruits will give the Cardinals a chance to do that. I have no doubt. This is an important development, and it's hell of a lot more important than just simple payroll counting. And that's why I have a lot more faith in the Cardinals to get things right, because they're going to prioritize the right thing, what they need at this particular time. And given the staggering number, and even though the process takes a while, I'm fine with that, because I explained it earlier. Who the hell wants to continue down the path they've been on? And given the staggering number of areas where the Cardinals have slipped into decay or disarray, I honestly don't know why any reasonable person would anticipate like an immediate turnaround. My gosh, it took the Cardinals years and years and years of neglect to sink. And that wreckage can't be raised and restored right away. It takes time. It's going to take time, because it took a lot of time for them to fall apart. Since 2015, steadily falling apart. Chaim Bloom knows what to do, because he comes from the Tampa Bay model, and he will do this methodically. And that means doing it the right way. If it takes a little more time, I'm fine. I'm fine with that, because I know there will be a payoff. And I know that the Cardinals will start doing the same things and prioritizing the same things that enabled Milwaukee to overtake the Cardinals. Now the Cardinals have to do what Milwaukee did to them, right? Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. I appreciate you all very much. Please subscribe, hit that like button, leave your comments, support our sponsors. A special thanks to DraftKings for presenting the Bernie Show on STL Sports Central. Have a wonderful weekend.